Welcome back. In the previous screencast, the basics of electronic field data entry for asbestos survey were covered using the infamous Burley rig for data entry, or perhaps just carrying around a tablet. So let's jump back in where we left off. Now you'll note where we entered the functional space number 2 that it's automatically banded. And we go ahead, if we enter our materials for our next space as well, you'll find that that is automatically banded. And that's done because it's much easier to set off your materials by functional space with these banding schemes, which act as a visual cue, making it much easier on the eyes. And that's controlled by this cell here in that ugly formula. Basically looks at this cell here and determines if it's changed from above and automatically fires from there. Also, in this cell column here, we have another automated formatting scheme. For example, if we put an X in here for our fire door, it automatically bolds. The same as well here, again making it much easier on the eyes when you call out just your positives. Now there's no problem as you go along and you're entering your HA data by functional space to simply copy your array string and just paste it, and that array string will be preserved. Buildings, of course, tend to have certain patterns, so if you copy your chunks of data by floor, wall, and ceiling, you may be able to do things much more rapidly than if you just enter things haphazardly. Now we can start to enter our sample information. For example, if our first sample of the soft plaster is 01A, we of course can just enter that in. And then as far as the quantity goes, you can enter in just the area as a formula. So say it's a 10 by 8 foyer, just enter that in, let it calculate automatically, and then you have that room dimension if you ever need to go back. Same thing with floor tile. If you want to just count your 9 by 9s, say it's a there's 13 tiles wide by say 10 deep, and then just multiply by 1.3, which is the difference between 9 by 9 and 12 inch, and just automatically calculates the quantity. Same thing goes for walls. Sometimes you can just count cinder block to get a height and then multiply by 1.5 in the formula to automatically calculate your height or area. Now getting back to the HA table, one additional thing that you can do is you can plug in a rate so that you can automatically calculate abatement costs for a location, functional space, or groups of location. And in this case here, the rate is a link based on this rate table here of all these textbook estimating rates. And you can, of course, update your rate here on the table. And then if you're pasting them as links, they will automatically update here. So if, for example, on your functional space data table you wanted to put in an additional column with the rate, then you have the quantity next to the rate, and then you simply have another column that multiplies the two, and therefore you can get your abatement cost for that specific location. And I will show you how you can then tally those in a future screencast. So you can end up with a functional space data table looking something like this. Of course, I'd expect my clients to have some change to this format to represent their own work, and they may want to do it differently. But I think this shows a functional space data table that's much easier to observe because you have not only your bolding of the asbestos positives as well as some banding of your functional spaces that makes it much easier on the eyes, especially when you have to flip through long sets of tables for large projects. So doing something like this, I believe, makes your functional space data tables functional rather than dysfunctional, and much easier to work with internally, as well as easier for clients and contractors to understand as well. So check out the following screencasts when I will show options for crunching the data further from these tables and also generating an electronic chain of custody.